Listen, in your own words, what does ZPD, or otherwise known as Zone of Proximal Development, mean to you?
Well, in my words, the ZPD, or Zone of Proximal Development, really means the area where the kids are comfortable and still learning, and right up to, but not beyond, that point where they get really frustrated and upset.
I would like to begin with number 1. It is explaining Vygotsky's social cognition model. We have learned so much about Vygotsky this year. One of the main aspects about Vygotsky is the Zone of Proximal Development. What does that stand for? ZPD. Sure is right on that one. Okay, the ZPD is that zone of proximal development where a student or a learner achieves right in the middle between what they can do on their own, independent level, and what they can't do, where they struggle. So they get a little assistance from Mr. Carroll over there.
Hello, Mr. Carroll.
Or another student.
Like maybe Zenaida?
I always get excited when I think about Vygotsky.
The ZPD.
It is. It's really encouraging. Personally, I prefer Piaget, but between the two of them, I think they're both valuable contributors to the realm of cognitive psychology.
Now, how do we see this in school? We see it every day in our school. We see it in cooperative groups, because what's cooperative groups? It's
peer support.
Peer support, social learning. That's where kids learn best. Pods, groups of desks, are arranged in pods versus the traditional classroom in rows and columns. How about reading? If we talk about reading, Vygotsky would be for a whole language approach versus more of a phonics approach.
We have Keisha Womack, who is going to tell us a little bit about how children in high poverty schools overcome their challenges through our theorists.
I think when you first talk about Vygotsky, you would think about the zone of proximal development. When you think about that, you have to make sure that you know the students. In order to know the students, you have to know the data. And that brings also Coleman's theory about data and research. A lot of times we do not know the children that we're studying, so we are not able to really meet their needs. However, if you're able to know the community in which they come from, you're able to know the environment in which they're exposed to and where they're going home to, you're able to meet their needs. So really intertwining Vygotsky and Coleman, if you use data in order to meet the needs of kids and drive instruction, that will be the best way to go.
Okay, the Vygotskian principles are at work in our schools today because since it believes in how culture affects them in their family life, we see that students in our schools today are affected by their family structure and by the social culture that they live in.
Social cognition learning model asserts that culture is the prime determinant of individual development. Humans are the only species to have created culture, and every human child develops in a context of a culture. Therefore, a child's learning development is affected in ways large and small by the culture, including the culture of family environment in which he or she is enmeshed.
We're here today and we are going to compare and contrast Vygotsky to Skinner. At this time we do have Tracy, and she is going to let us in on what she knows about the two.
Hi, in class we were talking about Vygotsky and his proximal zone of proximal development, and we can compare him to B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner used the idea that each child needs to learn step by step by step through positive and negative reinforcement. The zone of proximal development in Vygotsky kind of has that same kind of impact. You take the child to right where they need to be, pushed right almost to the next limit. Once they become proficient, then move on to the next task or thing. So that's how we can compare Vygotsky to Skinner.